because we publish, beloved. Hello, how are you, EbonyJanice? Nice to see you.
Good. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Welcome to the new podcast, We Publish, Beloved. We are here to talk about your book today and your publishing journey with all the Black girls are activists because we publish, beloved, right? That's
Yeah.
hard. Ashe, ashe. So I really want to hear from you about your publishing journey, and can you just give us some background on your journey, what that has looked like, and kind of what approaches you've had to becoming an author?
Absolutely. So it's funny that I'm sitting right here, because I didn't even realize that if you can't if you're listening, you won't see this, but I'm currently reaching behind me is my bookshelf. And there's a stack of my books. My latest book, All the Black Girls Are Activists, is right behind my head. But to the right, I'm
Mm,
reaching, there's a stack of books. And this stack of books are all of my publishings before this last book,
yes.
and they're all self-published. They're
Wow.
always self-published. So this, the book before All the Black Girls Are Activists is hardbound. It's Sacred Text for Black Folk Soul, a
Mm.
book you should leave on your altar. And then there's my Christian era. There's 5 Miles to Jesus, a radical worship that saved my
Come on,
life.
Christian era.
Yeah, yeah. And then there is a book called The End of Thirstiness,
Wow.
Lessons on Rejecting Desperation, Being Whole, Free, Single, and Satisfied. The funny thing about these books is you'll never find them anywhere
Wow.
ever again because have evolved just a little bit.
Got it.
There's Black Girl Curriculum, but here's my first ever book.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
I was 18 years old and I wanted to publish a book and I didn't know anything about publishing. And I had this book of poems, again, that you'll never ever read in your life because it's bad.
Uh,
But I had this book of poems. And so my parents bought me a printer, which is a really big deal at the
wow.
time. If you think about how many years ago that was, a printer was the cost of a mortgage,
Yes,
basically.
it was.
Yes, it was, and my parents bought me a printer, and I bound it with a glue gun and
Wow.
staples. I wanted to publish a book, honey. I was serious about this thing, and I started selling them on MySpace.
Oh my gosh, not MySpace. Oh no.
Started
Oh
selling them
no.
on MySpace for $10, and this girl found me on MySpace and purchased one, and then she emailed me one day and was like, I loved your book. I do self-publishing. Can I help you to turn your next book into a real actual book?
Wow.
And I'm just, the internet when back in the day, we were so trusting. And so I was like, yeah, sure.
Take my stuff. Yes, here you
Yes,
go.
please take these things. And she did. And the next book that I published was this book. It was through lulu.com for anybody
Wow.
that remembers the self-publishing kind of, it went from Lulu to Amazon to KDP to so
Yes.
Lulu used to be that girl and published this book of poems and essays. It's called Love Poems for Ivan and for the Times That I Hate You. Also another book that you'll never read in your life unless you happen to have a copy of it. And so that's the really the beginning of my publishing journey is that I didn't know anything about publishing, but
Uh,
I had books to write. And so I
mm,
wrote my books and I published my books down to the very first one is the most bootleg thing that you could ever imagine. But honey, I had a spine.
that's right.
These hoes could never.
That's right. I love that. I love that. And I love it so much because so many of the folks who are interested in learning about becoming first time authors are working through self publishing.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
really want to hear about your experiences with self publishing and then how we end up here.
Yeah.
So you went through the process of publishing your works. You had folks that came in, you got parents who helped you with a printer. How do we get here? How do we get here?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say the deep thing and then this literal thing. The deep thing is that I really feel like somehow I always just trusted that my words were important. And no matter how many people or how few people were reading them. And that's real. That's not just motivationally. I really mean that. I'm a journaler. I have hundreds of journals from I've been journaling very intentionally since I was 17, 18 years old, and when I was still calling it a diary,
That's
writing my
right.
diary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have and part of the reason why I love the process of journaling so much is because it gives me a space to say the things, to think the things, and to feel, my feelings, and it really validates it for
Mhm.
me. If
Mhm.
nobody else ever hears this, and in fact, I hope no one ever hears the majority of the things that I'm saying here.
Yes.
If nobody else ever hears this, it's important for me to get this out. And so I have always somehow understood. I have more thoughts on the somehow as well, but I've always somehow understood that what I thought and what I needed to say was important. And it didn't matter how many people was there to hear it or to read it or to be in relationship with me. It just mattered that I say it out loud.
That's right.
And even when I first started, because I'm ordained minister I've been preaching from the pulpit since I was 8 years old. And so I have like either from preaching to public speaking, there are times when I was in my early 20s at programs where there was only 2 people in the audience.
Mm.
And I could have felt some kind of way about that, but some supernatural something inside of me was like, "There's 2 people here, show the F
That's right.
out."
That's right.
Like, it's 2 people, change their
That's
lives.
right. That's
And
right.
so I have with my self-publishing journey, I honestly can't tell you how many books I sold when I was self-publishing. I'm gonna tell you that I wasn't wealthy doing it,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
wasn't making a lot of money in self-publishing, but I was perfecting my craft for
That's right.
sure. I
That's
didn't have that language at the time, but when I look back at it, that's what was happening. I
that's
was
right.
becoming a better writer. I was learning to trust my voice. I was learning to trust myself. And I
Uh,
was and I was, sharing the lessons that was necessary at the time because I mentioned, this book, 5 Miles to Jesus, The Radical Worship That Saved My Life from my super Christian era. And even though I don't identify as Christian anymore, and there are a lot of things in this book that I wouldn't necessarily preach from the mountaintop today, this book is so mother freaking good. I mean it. Like, now you're never getting a copy of it
I was
because
gonna say, hold on, wait, what now? Okay, so I
it's
can't
baby
even.
Ebony Janice, so I
Okay.
don't I don't want you to be out here trying to read by mouth of Jesus. But what is so good about it is it really was spirit inspired. Like, there were times when I would go back and read through it and be like, "Dang, nigga, did you plagiarize this? Because that is
Bars.
deep." Like, that
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
good. That is so good. And so for the season that I was in, this was profound. This was profound for the, however many hundred people or, 1,000 people, I don't know, however
Mhm.
many people read this book. It was profound for them in that season. And it was good for me that I learned those lessons and that I continued to evolve to the point of getting to All the Black Girls Are Activists, getting to my work, learning my voice in this season. And I
Yeah.
want to say this because 10 years from now, this book came out 2 years ago, going on two
Mhm.
years ago now.
Mhm.
10 years from now, I will very likely look back at All the Black Girls Are Activists and be like, "Oh, that was so
Bless your heart.
special."
Mhm.
Yeah. Heart, hello, baby. Just thought she was being so profound. And guess what? In this season, All the Black
Yeah.
Girls Are Activists really is that girl, for real.
Yes, it is.
For the folk saying that they're a part of the 92%, I literally wrote a book for you,
That's right.
how to actually do the sitting down that y'all claim y'all gonna be
That's
doing.
right. That's
Now, the
right.
92%, y'all ain't been actually sitting down. So I
No,
want
they
to
have
tell you
not. No, they
that if
have
you
not.
are looking for a way to sit down, a
Yes.
couple years ago, I wrote a little book premeditating that you was gonna need to sit down. And
Absolutely.
so this text really is profound. 10 years from now, we will be having prayerfully, we're speaking both prophetically and in just knowing history. We'll be
Mhm.
having a different conversation. So all the Black girls are activists. While there is much of it that I feel will still be relevant, my work will have evolved and shifted by that time. And so I will be thinking something else. So I don't have a deep judgment of, you know, little Ebony Janice who was with the printer and the glue
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
binding in the same ways that I won't judge this and that's, 10 years from now, but I know that I will have, evolved by then.
I love that.
And the last that I'll say about how we get to here is it was a DM slide.
Really?
This is a true story.
Tell
Yes.
us.
I have been doing my work, which is my suggestion. Do your work, write your things, right? Have your blogs, do, whatever it is that you're doing, do your work. And I actually slid into Rebecca Baroque, who is the publisher of Row House. I slid into her DMs about something else. And after she responded to what I slid into her DMs about, she said, "Ha- Thank you for coming to my DMs because I actually have been thinking about you. Did you want to publish a book?" And I said, "Have an outline ready to go. Let's get a copy."
Oh,
And
listen.
a week later, we were on a Zoom call. I talked about the theories of the books, what I was thinking, what I was dreaming. And on that call, she said, "Give it to me right now." Yes.
Wow.
And that is how I became a published author by a major publisher, not the EbonyJanice show.
Oh,
Mhm.
that is
Right.
incredible. What
Mhm.
an incredible journey. So first of all, just congratulations for
Thank
advocating for
you.
yourself, right?
Thank
Because
you.
I think as writers, it's really hard for us to say, I have a story in me, it's
Mhm.
worth telling, and I'm going to go after it. But you had that as a teenager.
Mhm.
That's impressive. I need to ask you, what's your sign? Maybe it's a sign thing. What's your
I'm
sign?
a Capricorn.
See, I knew it had to be some earth sign in there, okay?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
listen,
I'm a
the
Capricorn.
self belief,
Stop playing with me. I got
the
stuff to
self
do.
belief, right?
Good
We
luck
don't really
for
play about ourselves. We don't
you.
play
Mhm.
about ourselves. So I think that's really incredible.
Are you an earth sign?
I'm a Virgo. Um,
Okay.
yes.
We don't play.
We
It's
don't.
not a game. Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So I also want to hear from you because I was on the book tour last year, and your book was in every room I walked into. And I said, I need to meet this person. I need to talk to this person. So I want to hear from you about the promotional process of getting your book in front of the right people. How have you been working to do that? Even not just with this book, but it sounds like you've been working on that even with your self-published works as well. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, just a little bit of witchcraft, honestly. And I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
I am joking with the language of witchcraft, but I'm not. So, so leading up to my book coming out, I spent like a year. Literally, I built an altar for my book, specifically for my
Mm,
book. And the intention wasn't about the book being popular. The intention was about the fact that I was introducing a so-called fourth wave of womanism.
that's
And
right.
and the first wave womanists are alive.
That's right.
So
That's right.
so who are you
That's
to
right.
be telling us that
That's right.
we're entering into another wave of womanism? So what my altar was about in this prayer time on a daily basis for a year was about the elder womanist and those who came before me receiving what I had to say with deep grace. That's what I wanted more than anything, more
Mhm.
than bestseller, more than money, more than attention, more than a billboard. I wanted the womanist scholars and theologians that I have been learning from for
Mhm.
years to read my book and be proud of it.
Mhm.
So every single day I went to my little altar. Actually, I'm looking over into this corner because it was in this room. This used to be my shrine room at the time. And
Yeah.
over in this corner, I put all these beautiful flowers like the cover of the book,
Love
and
it.
I really created this very soft, luscious space to go to. And I would light a candle every single day. And I had this jar there, this like is a vase really. And I took these little slips of paper and I would write my little affirmation, what I was affirming for every single day. And some days it would be like, I affirm that Dr. Renita Weems will love this book. That's what the affirmation would
Yes,
be.
yes.
And then the next day it would be, my book is going to be entered into the canon, and for years to come, people will appreciate it and value it. And then the next day, the affirmation might be the reviews on Amazon are 5 stars consistently, and the words that people have to say is that this is transformative. And then the next day it would be my book touches people's lives and they
Mhm.
read it more than once. And so every single day for a year, so I wanna say, and you just pointed out the fact that I'm an earth sign. My ability to stick with that is,
Yeah.
very Capricorn energy. But what I wanna say is I really I'm really a strategy girl historically. I like to say step 1, step 2, step 3. I can give no actual credit to anything other than spirit for supporting me
Mm.
in this journey.
Mhm.
That is just a fact. And in fact, part of the reason why I gave a little bit of the breakdown of, the when I was just self-publishing, I knew that I just needed to keep saying these words because what I believe is that I was sowing a seed into the
Right.
future
That's
that
right.
I am just now I'm not even reaping seeds that I sowed in 2025 right now. I'm reaping seeds that I was sowing. There's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second
Mm,
best time is today.
mm.
And so I can't stand you for acting like this
I'm
right.
sorry, this is exciting. I love Black women. I just do. Go ahead, continue. I'm listening.
Yeah, that I really believe that spirit supported me in this journey because I trusted that it doesn't actually matter sometimes how profound. You know how many profound books I have read
Yeah,
that only me and you have read those
that's
books,
right. 2 people go
right?
see it for the rest of yes. Yes,
And that's a fact. And or, it was me, you, and that person's auntie, right?
that's right.
And in fact, part of the reason why I'm skipping ahead a little bit just for a second, but I launched this campaign last year called All the Black Girls Are Bestsellers. And
Yes.
the intention was to get Black femme folk writers on bestsellers list, really to promote those books so that because we wrote these books for people to read the books, right?
That's
Like
right.
I want you to read this book and I want you to read it again and hopefully you'll read it again. What I knew during that process of that campaign was that people love to throw Black femme books away.
Mhm.
People love to I know an author who got hella money for
Mm,
her book, and when it came time to promote the book, her publishers did the minimum,
mm,
really least than the minimum. It made me feel like they bought the book to make the book small
mm,
because this person has a large platform and some interesting concepts and ideas. I genuinely feel like they bought that book to make it small. And I also came to the idea of All the Black Girls Are Bestsellers that I wanted to put this forth because I'm tired of Black femme authors
yeah.
being celebrated in death.
Yes.
Don't have bell hooks all about love on the bestsellers list
After
for
she
the
passed
last
away.
several years since she
That's right.
transitioned
That's right.
when she was profound in her living,
That's
right?
right. That's
The
right.
same with Toni Morrison, the same with but not just the ones that we herald and we talk about so frequently. It
Yeah,
is the same for you and I
that's
that
right.
you have said something profound in Black Women Taught Us. I have said something profound in All the Black Girls Are Activists.
That's
LaVon Bridge
right.
has said something profound in Sensual Faith.
That's
Um,
right.
like we are saying profound things, and for just me, you, and my auntie to be the only ones reading these texts is
Mhm.
the issue. So that is, I believe that spirit is the major key.
Mm.
That it will require the us doing our part, do my work, let me
That's
sow my
right.
seeds,
That's right.
let me continue to show up, let me not, make this a popularity contest, let me do
Right.
my work. But
Right.
then also spirit to support me in that work really propelled me because what I saw and experienced during the rollout of my book and since has been I can't say that that was the Ebony Janice show. That is, I was doing my work for sure,
Yeah.
showing up, and also spirit was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
you you might be onto something. Let me
Yes.
support you." So,
I completely listen, this is making me so excited because I think this is absolutely right and this is exactly what I've said as well. When I first bumped into your book, it was at the Free Black Women's Library.
huh,
Yeah,
huh,
and, that's kind of the vibe that people had about it when I was in the space, and it drew me to the book, but it also drew me in to be thinking about these kind of spaces that we cultivate for ourselves and for one another to say, "I see you, I receive
mhm,
you, I affirm you," right? And so I think your 2 things, what you're describing about kind of writing about yourself and over yourself in that way, that's exactly what Octavia Butler did. With her
mhm,
journals, that her
yeah,
journals have all these messages
mhm,
about how she sees herself in her books living on. And so I do think that is so important. But what I also hear from this is that you leaned into the process even when there were times when you didn't even actually know where it was going, right? There was
1000.
like, you're like, I don't know where this is going to end up, but I know that this is something that is for me. And so I think, I want to hear from you because I think that's the part that's scary for those of us. And even that this is to me a cautionary tale of going to a publisher who gives you a lot of money, but then doesn't support the vision, right? So, what on your journey, when you think about that process of kind of, I'm not sure what's coming, this is uncertain, but I'm going to keep going, right? What surprises came up for you in that? What did you discover on that journey?
Well, 2 things that I wanna say about that. One is I have I have this belief that there is no point to this life but my purpose.
Mm.
And I remember when Kobe Bryant fell out the sky, that it was really some of that troubling for me of like my as a matter of fact, my oldest sister, knowing that my work is ministry, my oldest sister was like, maybe you should stay offline for a while because she's
Mm,
atheist right now. Because
mm,
I was after that and I wasn't even necessarily a huge Kobe fan, but it really was like when superheroes fall out the sky for no reason, it's like, wait a minute, what? And so I was saying, we just out here. We just out here. Like that was kind of the language that I was using a little bit. I was just so troubled by that. And
mm.
what brought me around to this language of there's no purpose, there's no point to this life but your purpose was reflecting on, what it means to be living your life in such a profound way and that your end could be as
It's
unexpected
time.
as that.
That's right.
And so you might as well do what you are actually supposed to be doing.
That's right.
And when you get that for yourself for real, who can embarrass
I'm
you?
gonna check you.
Shame you?
That's
Who
right.
can stop you, right? I mean that. There is not much that could make me stop saying the words out loud that are coming to me or writing the words that are coming to me. There isn't much that
Mhm.
could stop that because who are you?
Mm,
Truly,
mhm,
who are you?
mhm,
Even if there was some scrutiny or, negative feedback about the book, who are you?
mhm.
Actually, what does it actually mean?
Yeah.
My purpose is the only point of me being here in this really hard life.
Mhm, mhm.
Life is very generous, but it's also
It's tough
very
to tell.
hard.
That's
So
right.
who are you? So one of the things on this journey, that came for me, because that was Kobe 2020. That's the beginning of 2020.
I
Yes,
don't remember the year, but it sounds right.
it was the beginning of 2020. Oh, 2020 is when I got my book deal.
Mm,
The fact that I ended up getting my book deal as a DM slide is like, that
yeah,
makes sense because
yeah,
I'm out here in these streets like, "This what I'm doing."
yeah. You're grinding. That's right.
However you feel about it, this is what I'm doing. And so there's that. The other thing that I think has been surprising along the way is in a very positive way for me is how many other Black femme folk want to support me.
Yes,
And it's not surprising in the sense that I don't know that Black women take care of each other, right? Obviously we do that. But it's surprising the lengths that
that's right.
other Black women are willing to go to
Yeah.
support me, to support each other. Like, the reason that the books were in the, Free Black Women Library was because of the campaign, but the reason why it even made it into the hands of the person who is the founder of that space,
Yeah,
because Black women was like, "These books have to be here,"
that's
right?
right.
And so that kind of like the way that we will be each other's PR, the way that we
Right.
will, hopefully continue this in a deeper way, but walk into rooms and decide I'm not going to even walk into this room by myself. Not I'm going to get into the room and get
Uh-huh.
comfortable and then I'll bring you along. I'm walking into the room with all
That's
these Black
right.
women right
That's
here.
right.
Like, and if you can't accept me and all these Black women that I'm walking into the room with, then perhaps there's a different room for me to be in. So that was
Uh-huh.
very beautifully surprising to see how many other Black femme authors were like, and here's this resources, and here's this, and go
Uh-huh.
here and tell them this, and I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to send this
Uh-huh.
here. And so I will say this, and I know that you met my editor, Tamala Gordon.
I did,
Yeah,
yeah.
Tamala Gordon, the author of Hood Wellness.
That's right.
Tamala Gordon has been preaching and teaching the gospel of writing community.
Yeah,
And so that is what I'll say, has been it's not necessarily surprising, but very profound in this journey, a
yeah,
profound lesson in this journey is that building community, especially for those of us in the margins, right? That, publishing isn't necessarily thinking about us, even though
yeah,
it's, weird, but that writing community, building a community with other writers, particularly
yes,
those who are thinking about some of the same things that you're thinking about, that we're really healing a lot of our poverty mindset.
that's
This
right.
idea that there can only be one
That's right.
black femme writer in the space. Like, actually, no, if the 10 of us can't be here, we all gonna go,
Yes,
elsewhere. So
that's
yeah,
right.
those are some of the things that
I
have
love
been
that.
profound on my journey.
I love it, and I also love Tamla. Tamla will be on the show,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah, of
Um,
course. Yeah.
and I love this also because it speaks from a place of abundance, right? A place of, not from a place of scarcity. That whole one person, kind of, framework, to me, we bumped into that in the early, 2000s or so when social media got big and people were blogging and all of a sudden everyone was clamoring to be seen, right?
Mhm,
And I really appreciate this moment because I am hearing from more Black women, queer folks, trans folks, femme folks, that ideology, that framework, it just doesn't make sense,
mhm,
right? We live so much fuller, creative lives when we create in community with one another and see reflections of ourselves in one another. So I also want to hear from you because there are going to be people who are watching this like, this sounds great. This sounds beautiful, but it can't have been that easy. So what were some of the challenges that you encountered on the journey that you've learned from and have shifted the way you're moving forward?
mhm. I wanna say that it was that easy, and, and easy is, subjective
Yeah,
because we have years
that's
of
right.
the journey, right? So easy is subjective. But what I mean by it was that easy is that I really did a lot of work to trust myself
Mm,
and to trust that my timing is perfect. I'm so glad actually that I didn't write this book 20 years ago,
mm-mm,
get it published 20 years ago,
mm,
because it was not the time for this book
right.
years ago. It is the time for this book right now. And so if you're listening and you're feeling like what I'm saying sounds too easy, I'm really asking you to really tap into
Mm,
time,
mhm,
into the actual spiral and flow of life, and
mhm.
believing that there is a set appointed time. Now, here's your responsibility in the meantime.
Yeah,
It's your responsibility to keep thinking the things that you're thinking.
yeah,
Be and to think a thought means that you're not doing that by yourself. I don't believe that you can think by yourself, that you need to actually have something to substantiate that thought. So
yeah.
read some books.
Listen.
Can be thinking with the other thinkers who have published,
Uh-huh.
so that by the time you get ready to publish, you know what it will look like for you to have more words, to have more language, to have more citation
That's
that is
right.
going to authorize you and make you more credible, but also to think out loud. This is the way that Black women, I think, are the most profound living beings on the planet, because
Uh-huh.
we co-create knowledge.
We do.
To that. We co-create knowledge. We create knowledge
We
together.
do. We
Just
do.
being in conversation with each other. You might say something about frogs, and what you said about frogs made me think about dandelions. Now, when I leave this conversation and I'm over here building a whole exhibit on dandelions, cannot do it without saying Jen Jackson's name.
That's right.
Because if it wasn't for what you said about frogs, I wouldn't have even thought
You're
about the
absolutely
dandelion.
right.
And so it's why I say the spark deserves citation. So I'm growing in community. I'm co-creating knowledge. I couldn't have arrived at this thought without this conversation here. And I'm building, building, building. That is what you're supposed to be doing right now.
I
You are
agree.
supposed to be building an ethic. You are supposed to be building something profound. You are supposed to be building this thing so that by the time you arrive at it's time to publish, you will You got something to
That's
say.
right.
This the last thing I'll say about Tamala Gordon, my editor, who is part of the reason why this book is, I think, as profound as it
Yes.
is because Tamala would message me with her notes for the book, and she would be like in the margins, "Girl, what the hell are you talking about?" And I would be like, "Girl, I don't even know. I don't even know what you're talking about." And so there are chapters that went into the trash bin,
Mm.
whole chapters, because Tamala was asking these really profound questions to help me build, like, prove this to me.
Mhm.
And I wasn't equipped to build it, but
Uh-huh.
there were some things. For example, in the one of the chapters that disappeared, the chapter that ended up being replaced, I didn't even reply to her questions. I just threw it away and
Yeah.
put a whole new chapter that wasn't even in the original outline, and that chapter ended up being In Pursuit of My Ancestors, because
Wow.
something that Tamara asked me in the conversation, in the notes, for the other chapter that was about money, that something she asked me made me think about my ancestors.
Mm.
Oh, so I'm building in community, I'm thinking in community, and I'm not by myself in this thought process, so that at which point it's time for me to really write the book, I can defend what I'm
Mm.
trying to suggest, or I can say, you know what? I'm not equipped to have that conversation
Mm.
quite yet. And I'm sturdy enough in my selfhood to say, I ain't the one that should be having that conversation right now. Give me some
Uh-huh.
time to. So it's the timing. So I'm saying both, it really was that easy. Easy is subjective because we got a stack of,
That's right.
self-published books right
Yeah.
here. But also when it was the time for me to write this book that I believe will live in the canon forever.
Absolutely.
When it was time for me to write the book that was going to be the book that propelled me into this, conversation that we're even having right now, I was equipped and ready to write it because I have been thinking in community, I have been growing in community, and I have been co-creating knowledge in community.
I love that, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. As you were saying it, I was thinking about the conversations I've had with other Black, queer, trans, femme folk,
Mhm.
that those conversations have gone directly into
Uh-huh.
my writing, and it's absolutely true that we learn from and with one another. I think that
Mhm.
is so incredible, and I will say I learned while reading this, right? I think the 2 chapters that set in my body was In Pursuit of My Body and In Pursuit of Unashamedness. And I think it was because for me, those, struggles are so resonant, and I think that's where I wanna talk to you now about what did make it. There's a page here, you start talking about Cardi B, and I love this section on page 55. If I could tell my younger self anything, it would be, number 1, take better care of your teeth because Cardi B wasn't lying when she said it took a bag to fix her teeth, and she hope you hoes know it ain't cheap. Trust me, it ain't. And it was so funny because I quote Cardi B all the time. I quote Cardi B for everything. But I also think that this book is so endearing because it also speaks in such a way where it's almost as if we are having a conversation.
Mm,
I
mhm,
feel like I got to know you from reading this book. And so I want to ask the last two questions. I want to ask, because you just told us about what how that process went in terms of not keeping some certain things in the book. How did you finally say, this is it? This
mhm.
is it. These are all the pieces and this is what belongs here.
How I knew for sure that this is the book is that Tamala said, "This we done talking about this now." And I'm so deeply grateful, and I wanna say that both, my soul said yes when we came to the end of the process as well. But the reason why that is important to note is because I'm an earth sign, so I would
Mhm.
have tried to make it I would have been doing too much. And because I mean, you're a Virgo, so like you a little worse than me, actually, a little worse than Capricorns,
It's
but
probably true.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
there would have been no end to trying to and one more and one more and one more. And so there was that. So I'm very deeply grateful for a team that really believed in what I was working on, and also that loved me and honored my spirit enough in this journey to say out loud, that's it. We don't got no more back and forth about this. This is the book. And so there's that. But also I really want to reiterate, and maybe it's interesting that I'm the first guest because after me, and also that I'm a Capricorn and I'm being super
Mhm.
woo-woo, but
Mhm.
we'll start this then maybe like this is devotion,
Mm.
that every conversation after this then could be people giving more concrete or what
Mm,
feels like concrete responses. What I'm saying though is that it really was a deeply spiritual journey
mm,
for me to write the outline, then write the book, then get the final draft, that I really just trusted the process along the way.
mm. All right. So this is the last question, and I'm excited. This has been so lovely and restorative for me as a writer as well. So thank you for this. Um, is there anything that you feel that first time authors, especially, need to know sitting at these intersections of identity, right? Anything unique to being Black, femme, and in this space, this publishing space that you're like, if I had have known this, this would have really changed things for me.
Yeah, I think that a couple things come to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is I wish that I would have been more intentional about cultivating community around my writing much sooner. Because my writing has been so personal for me for so many years, thinking about me journaling, that's the way that I really approached it. And it took me a very long time to get to the place where I understood that this also could be my business. That there's something both purposeful about what I'm doing and that it deserves, a platform. And I
Mhm,
could have and should have been a little bit more intentional
mhm,
building that a long time ago. And I would like seg a little bit for a second to say what was coming to my mind as I was saying that is I was thinking about I coach Black women in particular around sovereignty.
mm,
Somebody asked me the other day, what is the number one thing that I find with the Black women that I work with? What is like the number one issue that they're kind of maneuvering through? And what it is most Black women, a lot of Black women, I'm gonna say that I have worked with,
mm,
struggle to tell the truth about what they really want.
mm,
And that is one of the ways that I will and flesh that in what I'm talking about with this publishing thing is I think part of the reason why I wasn't trying to pursue my writing career in this way on this level is because it felt very difficult for me to be honest about the fact that I wanted to be known
mhm,
for my work,
mhm,
that I wanted to be a writer, that I wanted to be known for it. And what if I could say language on the other side of that, that I wanted to be famous.
mhm,
And I really struggled with that I wanted to be a well-known, renowned writer because of the way that I was raised to be modest and to be quiet and to just do my work. And because I perceived it as ministry, there also is the trauma around and
yeah,
figuring around like, what am I supposed to be doing with this? And that maybe this should be free. And maybe,
mhm,
shouldn't be trying to charge for this.
mhm,
That would have impacted the way that I was building community. And then one day I thought about this, and this is going to sound shady, and we'll just have to let it be shady. But one day I thought about the fact that Kylie Jenner is famous. And one of the things that she's famous for is for a lip kit.
yes, child.
And Kylie Jenner wasn't born with lips.
No, she was not.
And so when you think about that, it's as silly as it sounds, right? That she has no fear about, putting out a whole product around something that isn't even natural for her.
That's right.
Now, here I am with something profound to offer the earth that could change lives and change the world. And I don't want to be honest enough with myself to say what I want is to be well known. I want to
Mhm,
be renowned. I want to be celebrated. I want to be honored for this thing that I do. And I want it to be on billboards and I want it to be in
mhm,
every room and I want to be known for this. And so that may not be the exact messaging that a lot of other Black women authors are struggling with, but a lot of us are struggling to tell the truth about what we really want. And if we could really identify what it is that we really want and be honest enough with ourselves about it, that would make it a lot more easy for us to be honest with others. And what that then would look like is if I was honest about this 10 years ago, I could have been,
Mm,
community and spaces and platforms
mhm.
made it even more possible for me to have moved in, in a more easeful way. I still believe in the perfect timing of my life, and I'm very deeply grateful for that. But there were very likely books that needed to be on a larger platform 10 years ago, but I was like, "I'll just do it like this, and that'll be good enough," and that's really where I was at the time, and it wasn't until I was honest about what I really wanted that it opened up a spaciousness for me to create those platforms. And so I wanna say that to you, the preacher in me and the benediction, anybody under the sound of my voice, I wanna say that to you, that if you are struggling to be honest about what it is that you're really desiring and intending to cultivate, being honest about that is going to give you some information about directions and steps for you to take,
That's
right?
right.
There's information on the other side of that honesty. And the last thing that I'll say, just as, a piece of advice, is still which is still within that same thing, is to say things out loud. I know
Uh,
real G's move in silence like lasagna. I got it.
huh,
But I don't fully buy into that. I do
yeah,
think that there are times when we need to open up our mouths and say, "This is what I'm looking for. This is what I
yeah,
need." And
yeah.
as a result of me saying those types of things, I got my Times Square billboard for the book. As a result of me saying those types of things, I got my PR agent got me in, Essence magazine.
Mhm.
Just in Essence magazine, it's like a full it doesn't actually make
Picture.
sense when you think about it. There's a full page in Essence
Yeah,
magazine
I've seen
just
it.
of my book, and
I've
then you
seen
flip
it.
a page, and there's a full page of writing about my book. So, essentially, Essence for free gave me an ad for all the
Full feature.
Yes,
That's
a
right.
full feature, and that was opening up my mouth saying, "I wanna be in Essence magazine."
Right.
I was opening up my mouth saying, "I wanna be on stage at Essence Fest." We still
That's
work,
right.
right? But, there are things that opening up my mouth and being honest about it produced
Yeah.
so many profound opportunities for me. And this the end of that sermon, because when I say that it's been easy, and it also has been me building this, building this, building this, and doing a lot of deep work to get to this place. When I wanted to do this campaign for All the Black Girls Are Bestsellers, I was having a conversation with somebody who asked me, what's the dream? And I said,
Mm,
I want to take 10 Black femme authors and purchase their books, and I want to get them on bestsellers list, because and I want to use Black owned bookstores, because the end result will be
mhm,
owned bookstores will be getting money, and these Black
mhm,
authors we're gonna buy enough books that their
mhm,
publishers are going to be getting their advance back. These folk are getting a check for their book
mhm.
if they haven't already gotten money, right? So that's what I want to do. And that person transferred $675,000 worth of stocks into my nonprofit organization's bank account so that we could do, and the rest matched cash to $1 million. And we did $1 million campaign to get over 55,000 books by Black women authors in the hands, which we gave away for free,
Wow.
hands of, several different organizations across the country,
Wow.
individuals, et cetera. And so what I'm saying all these words to say, I know that a lot of that may sound like, oh, well, EbonyJanice, you're just a witch. Of course you could do that. Of course you could make that manifest. But really it was opening. I never ever, anytime somebody asks me what you need, I'm talking to Rebecca Roboki about something else. And
Mhm,
ask me, do you want to write a book? Yes, I want to write a book. Got a book contract. I want to I'm doing this, whatever, these Black women authors. What do you need? I need $1 million. Here's $1 million. What if I would have said, oh, $10,000,
mhm.
$1,000 campaign? So I have learned the process of being honest about what it is that I want in my life, but especially as it pertains to my work. And when it
Mm.
comes to my work, 9 times out of 10, and the one time it don't work out is because I need to take a nap. We need to be doing that right now. But 9 times out of 10, when I am honest and transparent about what it is that I'm looking for, I could tell Jen Jackson, "This is what I want." today might not be the day that Jen Jackson is able to manifest that for me, but it is a seed that is sown, and Jen Jackson can come back to me in
That's
2027
right.
like,
That's
"Ebony
right.
Janice, remember when you said you wanted to da 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 da? Da 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 is on the phone right now. Are you
Right.
able to take this
That's
call?"
right.
"Yes, Jen Jackson, I was waiting for that
That's
conversation."
right.
So being honest, open up your mouth. Open
Mm.
up your mouth. Open up your mouth and say what it is that you want, what you need. That actually, I read a lot of romance novels, so
Yeah.
repeat, open up your mouth is extremely.
Yeah, I'm like, it's giving it yeah, it's
It's
yeah,
giving.
we here together,
Where
we're
we
here
going
together.
with this? Going with this, Ebony. Open up your mouth and say what it is that you really want. And it may not be today, but again, the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago, the second best time
That's
is today.
right.
Plant these seeds.
That's right.
Plant these seeds in the
Mm.
name of
That's right. Oh, prophetess EbonyJanice. Imma start calling if I post online, I say prophetess,
yeah,
just go with it,
I know
okay?
what it is.
So tell the folks where to find you, how to
Yeah.
support you, what you would like them to do in terms of their orientation to your work.
Okay, my name is Ebony Janice. I go by Ebony Janice, which means you should call me Ebony Janice.
That's right.
And I am everywhere at EbonyJanice.com, Ebony Janice on Threads, Ebony Janice on Instagram, which kind of those are the main places that I am. Allegedly,
Yeah.
I'm on TikTok. I just be doing little red things over there though. So
Child, we all have our
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And
Fantastic.
and what feels important to me right now is for I have another book coming out next year, April of 2026.
Okay.
And I think I'll say the title of it here
Okay.
for the first time ever. The title of my next book, I'm about to lie a little bit because I can't remember the subtitle,
Okay.
but the
Okay.
title of my next book is Real Soft Girl Shit.
Mm. We all in our soft girl era.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we think we are.
Mm. Yeah. We're
So
trying
we're
to be.
gonna really flesh it out a little bit. I introduced some of the language of softness and In Pursuit of Softness in my book,
Yes.
in my best-selling book, All the Black Girls Rap.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
have been really troubling this language of softness and wanting to make sure that we don't veer too far off into what we are talking about when we talk about soft black girls.
Mm.
So, Real Soft Girl Shit, which is going to be dedicated to Meg the Stallion, who has been such a beautiful example of what vulnerability and softness looks like, and also is really the evidence of how hard it is for
That's right.
black girls to
Just exist.
perceived as soft
Yes.
because, we know.
Yes.
So it's Real Soft Girl Shit, of course, is a play off of her Real Hot Girl Shit language, and so I'm very excited about that, but I'm saying that to say, to stay in community with me through social media and to my website, and you can subscribe to my newsletter to learn things early, and also there's a Patreon where I'm always talking about stuff that is nowhere else, and so you'll know the things before the things, and yeah, you heard it here first. Real
Oh
Soft
my
Shit coming
gosh.
to a bookstore
I'm
near
so
you.
excited. Ooh, this is fun. I love my job. And I just want to
Yay!
say thank you for this book. Thank you for existing. And we publish Beloved. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a lovely guest. And you are officially Prophetess Ebony Janice.
Period, period.